Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary, and today's video is going to be my Sorry Picks My TBR for the month of December. In the month of December, I'm going to be participating in a readathon that I also participated in last year, and it's called the Reindeer Readathon. I believe at the time of me posting this, there is still time to sign up, but it is a team's readathon, so you sign up and then you get randomly assigned to a team, I believe. I am on team CANDYCANE this year, which I'm very excited. It is headed by my friend Amanda at her Pacific Northwest Washington Life. I will link her channel down below and her Instagram, because she's way more active on Instagram than she is on YouTube. And I will also leave Eric from Break Even Books channel down below, as well as his announcement video, because he is who sort of organizes this readathon every year. And if you need to know anything about the prompts or the teams or how to sign up, all of that will be at his video, not this one. As I go through my Sorry Picks My TBR this game round, I will be letting you know if books fit into the Reindeer Readathon and what prompts they fulfill, but I will not be going into depth on what the prompts are, if that makes sense. Without further ado, let's just find out how many books I'm going to be reading in the month of December. Okay, so I'm starting right here on YA Fantasy, where we left off last round. And the first card is 11, so we will be doing 11 draws this month. And the first move forward 3. A Latinx author. So the first card that I drew this month was an 11, which means I'm going to be reading 11 books in the month of December, at least. And then the first space that I landed on was to read a book by a Latinx author. And for this, I'm going to be reading The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, who is, I believe, a Chilean author. This book, I don't really know much about it. It's a fantasy, and I believe it follows a boy who is obsessed with alchemy and magic, and he goes on this adventure to find the alchemist. I don't know much about this. A lot of people love this book. I've heard amazing things about it, and I'm excited to finally read it. Next, move forward 5. Sci-Fi. The second prompt that I landed on was Sci-Fi, and for this I'm going to be reading the second book in the Scythe series. This is the first book, Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman, which I am buddy reading with Amanda at her Pacific Northwest Washington Life, and Hugo at the Scientist's Reading World. I will again have both of their channels linked down below. We read Scythe in October, and I really loved it. I really enjoyed this reading experience. It was really fun to buddy read with all of them, and so we are going to be buddy reading Thunderhead in December. I'm really excited to pick up where this book left off. This is a dystopian series, and it's set in a futuristic world where humans have basically overcome death, and so the only way that people can die is if these ordained individuals called scythes come to glean you. But we follow in the first book Citra and Rowan, who are two teenage kids, and they are both chosen by Scythe Faraday to become his apprentices and to learn how to become scythes. So the first book follows them, and then I believe the second book will just pick up where it left off. A lot of things happen in between, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to go into the plot of book 2, but I am very excited to be reading this one. And I forgot to say, but I'm also going to be using Thunderhead for the Reindeer Readathon prompt of Donner, which is to read a book with red or green on the cover, because I believe Thunderhead is green. If not, that might change, but I think the cover of Thunderhead is green. Move forward 10. Ooh, Matt gets to pick. I'll be very excited about that. The third space that I landed on was Matt pick. And so Matt is my boyfriend, if you're new here, and I have a space on my board so he can pick me a book. And this time he chose 10th of December by George Saunders, which is a collection of short stories. I don't know very much about these short stories. I know Matt really likes this book. He said there's one story in particular in here that he's really excited for me to read, and that it like changed the way he thinks about the world. So I'm really excited to read this too. And this actually is going to fulfill the prompt Dasher for the Reindeer Readathon, which is to read a collection of short stories. So I'm very excited to be reading this book. Move forward 8. A book in a series. Okay, so the next space that I landed on was to read a series, and one of the prompts of the Reindeer Readathon is to let your or a random number generator or a poll, or in this case, I let my dogs pick the book that I'm going to be reading. So the series prompt I have on my board so that I can continue in series that I've started, and it gives me an excuse to read books that are part of a series because I have a really bad habit of starting series and not finishing them. So I chose 3 different series to continue into, and I will just roll the clip of the dog the dog's, my dog. I will just roll the clip of my dog picking a book. Okay, so for this prompt, I'm gonna let the dogs pick. So I have 3 different books that are all a part of a series. Marvel. We have A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, which I started last month. I have Hidden Bodies, which is the second book in the You series by Caroline Kepnes, which I started earlier this year. And then I have Living Dead in Dallas by Charlene Harris, which is the second book in the Sookie Stackhouse series, which I also started last month. So I think, what do you think, Marv? Should you pick? You want to pick which book I read? Can you be good? I think so. Okay. Marvel, no. Come here.
Oh, wait, are you not having both books in it?
No, only Marvel. Can you sit? Wait. He's not going to be good at this. Wait. Wait. No. Wait. 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 Okay, Marv, pick. Okay. So as you will have seen, Marvel did choose A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, which is the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. This is also a huge, like, really hefty book. It's over 500 pages, so I'm going to be using this for the bonus prompt of The Christmas Star, which is read a book that's over 500 pages. This is like almost 700 pages, I want to say. Well, not quite. It's just over 600 pages, but it's definitely, I think it's like twice as long as A Court of Thorns and Roses, almost. So I'm really excited to be picking this up. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses in November, and I'm really happy that I'm going to be continuing in the series. This is set in a fairy world, and we follow Feyre, who is a human, and in the first book, she kills a fairy, so she's brought to the spring court in the fairy world and sort of held captive there. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and a lot of things have happened since then, so this is going to go off in a completely different direction that I already know a little bit about because I've been spoiled for at least one of the twists in this series, but I don't mind. So yes, I'm excited to continue on with that series. Move backwards 4. Another sci-fi. The next prompt that I landed on for Sorry is to read a sci-fi. So for this, I'm going to be reading Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. I have no idea what this is about. I will read you the back. It says, in Breakfast of Champions, one of Kurt Vonnegut's most beloved characters, the aging writer Kilgore Trout, finds to his horror that a Midwest car dealer is taking his fiction as truth. What follows is murderously funny satire as Vonnegut looks at war, sex, racism, success, politics, and pollution in America and reminds us how to see the truth. So I read Cat's Cradle a few years ago by Kurt Vonnegut, and I loved it. I've heard really good things about this one as well. I picked this up at a secondhand shop, and I'm really excited that, first of all, I have matching covers. These are drawings from Kurt Vonnegut's notebooks, and they don't have anything to do with the books that they're written about, or that they're on the cover of, I guess. But they're just drawings that he actually drew, so I think that's really cool. Move forward 10 or backwards 1. So backwards 1 would be fantasy. And forwards 10 is fantasy as well, so I'm going to go forwards. And the next prompt that I landed on was to read a fantasy, and for this I'm going to be continuing in my read of The Cosmere by Brandon Sanderson, and the book that I have on the docket for December is A Way of Kings, or The Way of Kings, I don't really know, which is the first book in the Stormlight Archives series, which I believe is the series that sort of ties the whole Cosmere together. I started my read with Elantris. I read all of Mistborn Era 1. Last month I read Warbreaker, and this month I'm starting the Stormlight Archives. I'm reading them in publication date order. I will link the website if I remember. I literally just Googled Cosmere reading order, and I followed one of the paths. So that's what I'm doing. I believe I'm going to be reading these until at least like June or July of 2023, so please pray. I don't have any idea what this is about. I think that the magic system is called shards, but I don't know what that means. I have no idea. I do think that this involves a journey, and if I'm wrong about that, then I might be switching things around. But there's a prompt in the Reindeer Readathon to read a book that has a travel element. It is the Prancer prompt, and so I'm using The Way of Kings for this, but I've just realized that if that doesn't work, then I'm going to be using The Alchemist for this, because I know The Alchemist has a travel element. At least I'm pretty positive. So if not, I'll just use something else and switch things around. This is not like necessarily a superset TBR, but I am very excited to be continuing my read of the Cosmere. To be honest with you, I really loved Mistborn, and I liked Elantris, and I thought that Warbreaker was just okay. So I'm interested to see how I'm gonna feel about Stormlight Archives. I don't know if Brandon Sanderson's like a one-hit wonder with me or not. Yet to be seen. Move forward 1. A mystery. The next prompt that I landed on was to read a mystery, and for this, I'm gonna be reading House of Hollows. House of Hollow, single hollow, one hollow.
The poison for Cusco. The poison chosen specially to kill Cusco. Cusco's poison.
Which is, I believe, a YA horror fantasy mystery, I think. Let me read you the inside cover. It says, Iris Hollow and her 2 older sisters are unquestionably strange. As children, they disappeared on a Scottish city street, only to return 1 month later with no memory of what had happened to them or where they had been. More troubling, their appearance began to change. Their blue eyes are now black, their dark hair is now white. And as they grow older, odd, eerie occurrences seem to follow in their wake. People find them disturbingly intoxicating, unbearably beautiful, and inexplicably dangerous. Now 17-year-old Iris is doing all she can to fit in and graduate high school on time, something her 2 famous, glamorous, globe-trotting older sisters, Gray and Vivi, never managed to do. But when Gray goes missing, leaving behind bizarre clues as to her whereabouts, Iris and Vivi are left to find her, but they aren't the only ones looking. As they brush against the supernatural, Iris quickly realizes that the story she's been told about their past is unraveling, and the world that returned them seemingly unharmed 10 years ago might just be calling them back again. I'm really excited about this. I bought this recently. So this is either in an upcoming book haul or the book haul will already be posted. I don't know yet. This is also going to be used for the prompt of Vixen for the Reindeer Readathon, which is to read a book that recently caught your eye. I was not planning on buying this, but I saw it on bookshop.com, and I got a bookshop.com gift card for my birthday. So I picked this up along with a few other things, and I'm really excited about it. Move forward 2. A friend recommendation. So the next prompt that I landed on was to read a book that a friend recommended to me, getting all the recommendation prompts this round. And for this, I'm going to be reading A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray, which I actually recently acquired as well. My boyfriend's mom is letting me borrow this, so I want to read it before I go back to see her. But this was actually recommended to me back in maybe a year ago, probably less than that. The last time I asked for book recommendations from people, my friend Haley recommended this series. I don't remember what the series is called, but this is the first book in that series, and I'm really excited to read it. I have no idea what it's about. I think it's a YA fantasy. It says, Gemma Doyle isn't like other girls. Girls with impeccable manners who speak when spoken to, who remember their station, and who will lie back and think of England when it's required of them. No, 16-year-old Gemma is an island unto herself, sent to the Spence Academy in London after tragedy strikes her family in India. Lonely, guilt-ridden, and prone to visions of the future that have an uncomfortable habit of coming true, Gemma finds a chilly reception. But she's not completely alone. She's been followed by a mysterious young man who warns her to close her mind against the visions. That's all I'm going to read. There's 2 more paragraphs, but I'm only reading those. I've never read anything by Libba Bray, so I might be using this for the Cupid prompt, which is to read a book by a new author. Sorry, so that's add another book. So now instead of 11, we will be doing 12. Move forward 5. Literary fiction. And then I drew a sorry, so I'm now going to be reading 12 books in December at least, instead of 10. And the next prompt that I landed on was to read a literary fiction. And for this, I chose We Can Only Save Ourselves by Alison Wisdom, which I believe I'm going to be getting an audiobook of. This was on my 5-star predictions list, so I would like to read it this year, if possible. But essentially what this is about is, I think it's a woman whose sister goes missing or joins a cult, and it's about her trying to find her sister, and about, I think, the town that they live in discovering that her sister is involved in this cult. I think there's some sort of mystery aspect to it, but I do believe it is shelved on Goodreads as literary fiction. I haven't heard anyone talk about this book, but it intrigued me when I first heard of it way back in like February, I think. So I'm really excited to be reading this one. I'm very interested in cults and specifically like the family members of cults, or of cult members, and how your life sort of changes once a family member joins a cult. So I'm really excited to be reading this one. Move forward 7, or split the move between 2 pawns. So what I think I'm gonna do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go home with that one, and then get a green piece out and start again. So now yellow has moved home, and we're gonna start here. 1, 2 to finish that off, and we have YA fantasy. The next prompt that I landed on was to read a YA fantasy, and for this, I'm gonna be reading A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, which is another of my 5-star predictions for the year. So again, I want to read this before the end of the year. I bought this semi-recently. I'm very excited to be reading this. It's the first book in the Scholomance series. I don't know how many books that's going to be, but the second book came out this year. So I do want to read this so I can keep going in that series, and I'm hoping I love this. I loved Spinning Silver by this author, so I really am hoping that this is at least as good to me as that was. This is like a dark academia / magic school setting. I believe the school doesn't have any teachers, but you like fight for your life in this school, and I think our main character is kind of standoffish, but the way that you get through this school is by like making allies. And so I think this book is about her trying to make this ally. I don't know anything about the plot of this book, and I've heard, to be honest with you, a lot of negative things. So I'm hoping that I love this, but I'm not too hopeful, but I guess I am. I don't know. So I'm really excited to read this book. I'm sorry that you can't see it very well. It's a very shiny cover, but I feel like unless it's like directly facing you, you can't see what it says. But I'm really excited to read this one. I'm also going to be using this for the prompt to read a 5-star prediction. It's one of the Reindeer Readathon prompts. It's Comet. And so I hope that I love this, but this is on my 5-star predictions list. For our 11th poll, move forward 5, and that's a retelling. The 11th prompt that I landed on was to read a retelling, and for this I'm going to be reading The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins, which is a mystery thriller, I believe. It's a retelling of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, which I've actually never read, but I watched the movie that came out kind of recently. And I know the premise of Rebecca, but I think it's the same premise here. A woman gets married, and there's rumors that her husband has kept his wife upstairs, I think is what the book is about. I don't really know that much about it, but I'm very excited to read it. I want to read Rebecca at some point too. I've never gotten around to it, but maybe someday. And I'm thinking that I will enjoy this book, I'm hoping. I've heard good things about it. It is nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award, which is one of the reasons why I decided that this was going to be my retelling. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. And our final poll is move forward 7. And that is short stories. The last prompt that I landed on for Sorry this month was to read short stories. And so I'm going to be continuing in The Quantity Theory of Insanity and Other Stories by Will Self, which I started in October. I got about this far in, which is a story and a half. To be honest with you, I'm not totally loving this one, but I do want to just give it another shot, see if I like it, and I'm not afraid to DNF it if I don't, to be honest. So I am excited to continue in this, I guess. I don't know if excited is the right word. I am going to be continuing in this, and then I will decide for once and for all if I'm gonna keep reading this or if I'm just gonna DNF it entirely. Okay, and that's it for Sorry, but I do have one other book that I'm gonna be reading in December, and that is Persuasion by Jane Austen, which is the final book in my Jane Austen Buddy Read that I'm co-hosting this year. We will be having the live show probably the first weekend of January, I think, or the second weekend. I don't really know. I haven't talked to the people that host it with me yet, but I'm really excited. It's Jane Austen's final work. I believe it was also published posthumously, and it is the only one that has like older main characters. Well, they all have older male main characters, but like follows an older protagonist, which I'm very excited to read about, and it is a second chance romance from what I understand. So I'm very excited to be reading this one, and I'm gonna use this for the prompt for the Reindeer Readathon to read a book by your favorite author. Jane Austen's not my all-time favorite author, but I definitely have loved more of her books. I haven't disliked any of them. I've liked a lot, some more than others, but they've all gotten at least 3 stars from me, and so I'm excited to continue in that read. If you would like to join us for that live show. You can subscribe to my channel because I will be updating on when that will be and posting an event for it before it happens. But I believe that is going to be the final book of my December TBR. So that's 14 books that I'm planning on reading in December, which sounds like a lot, but at this point in November, I'm filming this and I have 8 days left of the month and I've already read 20 books. So I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really good about my ability to read a lot. Somehow I've been able to push through a lot of books recently. So I'm very excited for this TBR. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books. Also, let me know if you're participating in Reindeer Readathon and what team you're on, as I would love to either trash talk you or, you know, cheer you on, support you. Just kidding. But thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me, because I do post 2 new videos every single week. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!